Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about ND filters and why they can be essential for filming, especially outdoors. Now, what exactly is an ND filter? In the most basic terms, it's a piece of glass you put over your lens to help darken up an image. Now, when we're talking about exposing for a camera, we have three ways to lighten and darken our image. Number one is our f-stop or aperture. This basically translates to the lower your f-stop is, the more blurry your background is going to be. Number two is shutter speed. This affects how much motion blur we're going to see in our footage as we move. And number three is ISO. This is the camera electronically making the sensor more sensitive and therefore allowing more light in. Now, why would we need then extra glass to change, darken up or brighten the image if we've already got three other options? So ISO, basically the higher we put this, the more noisy our footage is going to be. Therefore, if we want the best looking image, it's best to keep this as low as possible and to never touch it. Number two, shutter speed. It's a general rule of thumb that you should double whatever your frame rate is for your shutter speed. For example, I'm shooting in 24 frames a second and therefore have a shutter speed of 48. The only thing we have left to control how much light is let into the camera is our f-stop. Now, in a bright condition like this, the only way I could do this was to raise that f-stop up as high as I could. That therefore means that everything is going to be pretty much in focus and there won't be really any depth to the image. But what happens then if we want to raise this to make, if I want a blurrier background? Our first option can be to lower our f-stop, but then we have to counteract that by raising our shutter speed, and that will look something like this. I've now lowered my f-stop so you can see the background behind me is much more blurry, which is great if you want to really separate your subject from the background. The downside is by raising our shutter speed, it ends up making our footage look a little bit more digital. You can see by the way I move my hands, there's something about it that just feels very like a kind of cheap video quality. It doesn't seem quite right. That's because when we watch movies, our eyes have become so used to this sort of motion blur that when we don't see it, it looks unnatural. This is why we can use an ND filter. By attaching this to the lens of the camera, we therefore have another set of controls. So what I'm going to do now is attach our ND filter, which is going to naturally darken up our image. I can then keep our shutter speed at 48, but it means I can also allow the f-stop to be lower. There we go, I've got this ND filter on now, so we've got this beautiful, nice blurry background, which really helps separate me. On top of that, our motion blur looks nice and normal because we've kept it at double the frame rate. Thanks for stopping by, I hope this helped. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment below. Cheers.